Victor Medina and Shiliang Tang are in the midst of their most important match of the year, the win and in for top cut at the Pokemon World Championship. And both are searching for the right play in the final pivotal turn of the set. But first, let's take a step back and look at how these players got to this position and show how they spent an entire season preparing for this opportunity. For those who are new to the Pokemon competitive circuit, the World Championship is an end-of-season event which can only be qualified for by having a strong showing throughout the year. In this season, players had to amass at least 500 points in order to qualify, a barrier which Shiliang and Victor absolutely smashed. Victor had an incredible run throughout the season, top-cutting multiple regionals alongside a top 32 finish at the European International Championship and a top 8 finish at the Latin American International Championship. And Shiliang also had one of the most impressive runs of the year, also obtaining multiple cuts in regionals as well as cutting the final event of the season prior to Worlds, the North American International Championship. Heading into Worlds, both Shiliang and Victor decided to champion Calyrex Ice Rider-based teams, one of the most dominant Pokemon since it's been allowed in competition this regulation. Victor's team has many of the common Ice Rider partners, with staples like Raging Bolt, Urshifu, and Rillaboom. However, it's worth noting that Victor's team carries many Ice-weak Pokemon, meaning that he will probably want to avoid letting Shiliang's Calyrex get into a strong position. Shiliang also carries popular supportive Pokemon like Incineroar and Urshifu, but Ogerpon Tealmask and Landorus are more uncommon partners for Calyrex, which offers Shiliang specific tools and matchups that his opponents may not be prepared for. And in this matchup, Shiliang's supportive Pokemon would prefer to beat an opposing Calyrex by clearing it from the field before it can move, meaning Shiliang will also be working hard to prevent Victor's Ice Rider from getting into a strong position. This means the matchup will largely be decided by which of the two players can position their pieces better, with both players looking to create pins that can force suboptimal plays from their opponent. Now that we know how both players want to approach the match, let's quickly go through what happened in the first two games, so we can better understand the pivotal play in Game 3. In Game 1, Shiliang used Lando-I and Urshifu to apply early pressure, while Victor went for trying to position his Calyrex in a strong position immediately. Shiliang then pivots Landorus out and brings in Incineroar, who has the Rocky Helmet under, which means that Victor's Urshifu breaks its Focus Sash on attacking Incin. This also reveals that Incineroar has enough bulk to tank a Surging Strikes. The combination of these early turn surprises gives Shiliang an advantage on the last pivotal turn of Game 1, where Victor is forced to get more reads right than Shiliang, which he fails to do. Shiliang is now up 1-0 in the set. In Game 2, Victor adapts to this revealed information by choosing to commit Terra Water on his Urshifu, which allows him to remove Incineroar from the board in one attack. This surprise gives Victor great early momentum, which is slowly whittled down to a more even board state on the final pivotal turn of the game, where this time Victor is able to correctly predict what Shiliang will do, sending them to the final game of the set. Now we enter the final game of the set, and Shiliang reveals a new game plan on turn 1. Shiliang commits his Terra to Incineroar, giving it a great defensive typing against both of Victor's on-field Pokemon. After Game 2, Shiliang realized that Incineroar's ability to burn opposing Pokemon would be vital, as Victor was choosing to bring 4 physical attackers to the game. This adaptation catches Victor completely by surprise and nets Shiliang a massive early advantage. Additionally, Shiliang also reveals Ogerpon was brought to this set, something he had not done before. Using this early advantage, Shiliang manages to finally create a scenario where his Calyrex would be able to attack this game, but absolute disaster strikes. Victor's Ogerpon, which is intimidated, should be doing around half of Calyrex's health, giving it more than enough room to pick up knockouts and secure the game. But Ogerpon critically hits with Ivy Cudgel, knocking out Shiliang's Calyrex before it has a chance to do anything. This completely swings the board state back to an equal position. Shiliang will now have to play extremely well positionally to stay in the game. And just a few turns later, a decisive board state emerges. Victor has Calyrex Ice on the field alongside his burned low HP Urshifu, while Shiliang has his Ogerpon and Incineroar. If Victor's Calyrex can attack, he will win the game, but Shiliang has too much offensive pressure to allow for that. Victor needs to reposition to give Calyrex a safe opportunity to attack. And he can do this by protecting with Calyrex while switching in his Ogerpon. But that carries considerable risk, since Shiliang could call it and attack Victor's Ogerpon as it swaps in, stripping it of the bulk it needs to protect Calyrex. But Victor sees a way to try and forcefully clear the Urshifu slot. If Urshifu is left unharmed, it can attack Shiliang's Incineroar to activate Rocky Helmet's recoil, which will KO Urshifu, granting Victor his safe switch-in the following turn. And if Shiliang does attack Urshifu, it will certainly be knocked out, giving Victor the same position he wants. And lastly, if Shiliang tries to take Incineroar off the field to deny Rocky Helmet recoil, the only mon that can switch in is a critically low HP Urshifu, which wouldn't be able to survive the incoming attack, meaning Victor's Ogerpon would now be safe from future Intimidates and strong water moves. It looks like Victor is covered for all the possible options and can guarantee a positive board state for himself after this turn, but there's one play that Shiliang can make to shut down Victor's plan. Shiliang's Ogerpon can use Follow Me to redirect Urshifu's attack into herself, stopping Urshifu from taking the Rocky Helmet chip it needs, while Incineroar fakes out Calyrex to make sure it doesn't get a Glacial Lance off. Fortunately, that's the kind of play you see in post, coming through the match afterwards and analyzing all the possibilities to see what you could have done better. But, incredibly, Shiliang, under the pressure of being in his most important match of the year, and with only 45 seconds, is able to analyze and interpret everything we just went over and make the smartest play at the Pokemon World Championship. With that play, Shiliang is now in the driver's seat for this match, and the game comes down to Victor's burned, intimidated, and heavily injured Ogerpon against Shiliang's Incineroar. Victor tries his best with multiple spiky shields to chip away at Incin's health, but on the third attempt, the move fails and Shiliang wins the set, more than earning his spot in the top cut of the 2024 Pokemon World Championship.